Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from the UK is Helen Garcia. Hi, Helen. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Vasco. How you doing?
So Helen's been in projects for over 10 years, everything from construction to pharma to more recently gaming. Not only does she want to bring an agile mindset to organizations that are ready for change, but she also strongly believes that agile can be just as effective at home, bringing value sooner, safer and happier, thanks to Jon Smart, is a quote that Helen takes most places. Helen, that was a short intro. Tell us a little bit more about you and how did you get started as a Scrum Master?
Yeah, so like you said, I've been doing project management and stuff for around about just over 10 years, I think even 12 years now. And I basically had a bit of a mindset change a few years back. I used to have a bit of a reputation. I was sort of proudly described myself as what I did was sort of bossing people around for a living to get stuff done. And that was all well and good for a little while. And I enjoyed kind of the buzz of it and this so-called sort of imagined power that I had. But it started to take its toll. I started to open my mind a little bit and think, gosh, there's got to be a better way of doing this because, it's stressful being a project manager because you are, telling the what's, how's and when's. And actually, I have to give a little bit of credit to Helen Garcia because she started to change in this mindset as well when she started to develop. And I thought, you know what, actually, there is a better way of being able to bring people together and collaborate together and work as kind of one rather than this hierarchical way of doing things. So I started to implement small little changes like have dailies, but not really dailies. Obviously, you would never talk about Agile when you do Agile. And started to do little things like that and be a lot more open, have a lot more agreements out loud with my project teams. And little by little, I started to see that change and how it did work. That was really interesting. And it got to a point where although I still struggled very much with that, going from a more project management linear way of delivering something to a more incremental and iterative way of delivery. And I really struggled with some of those elements, but soon things started to sort of fit into place. And that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to do my courses and all of that sort of stuff. And, when you've done your course, you think you're amazing and you know everything about Agile mindset and also the Scrum framework and things. But little did I know is that I started working as a Scrum Master. But it was great. It was super fun. I think that's the best thing about the Agile mindset. It's not just about delivering great products and delivering things that the customer actually wants. It's making it fun and making it exciting for everybody. And that's probably the bit for me that I thrive on the most. And actually that's kind of brought me to where I am now in terms of like being a Scrum Master. Like I just, I love it. It fits me. It fits my personality, my character, and it just fits the way that I like to work. So it happened organically.
Yeah, and it's through experience, right? It's through being there. It's through experimenting with different things. Like what you said, you started doing maybe dailies instead of status meetings. You never talked about Agile, but you started to do these small things differently. And one of the things that is quite important, of course, is how our approach, our perspective changes. I'm usually called a recovering project manager. I say recovering because sometimes I do go back there and continue to use some of those tools because they feel familiar, obviously. But as we take on this new role, the role of the Scrum Master, we are, of course, embodying a different perspective, a different approach. And today's Monday, it's Fail Monday here on the podcast. So, Helen, we would like to explore one of those stories where, as you got started maybe, or even later, you started to explore new ideas, new thoughts, you started to put into practice that new mindset. But, of course, as we all do, you went through a failure moment, and those are very important for us because they're kind of defining for our careers and our own personal development. So we want to dive into that and learn from it. So tell us that story first, though, Helen.
Okay, yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned recovering project manager. I tend to do quite a lot of talks on recovering as a project manager. I guess recovering from failure. I think one story that comes to mind is that I used to assume that everybody was starting from the same point. So everybody understood exactly the same as what I understood about the Agile mindset. And they understood if we were delivering in a Scrum framework that they knew the cycles, they knew the ceremony, they knew the lingo. But I think worst of all, from my perspective, I assumed that they were just as excited about it as me. And that was actually a massive failure, I think, for several reasons. Because firstly, I didn't realize until much later down the line people weren't always just aligned with the way I was thinking. Me being excited made me not listen and made me not observe the difficulties that people were having. So yeah, that was definitely an area that I've had to change. Being a Scrum Master, it's so important to be able to meet people and meet your teams, your individuals, or in fact, the organisation really, to where they are in their journey. And to do that, you need to be able to understand, but you need to be able to listen, not just hear. And you need to be able to just observe. And that may be observing for what feels like a long period of time, but that's really important. From not doing that initially, I actually, even months, in fact, I think this one particular team, it was 6 or maybe even a year later, where they said, actually, we just don't like Agile. It's just not something we want. And for all this time, I'd just been impressing it upon them, not really understanding. So that was a huge failure from my part. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you said something that I want to explore a little bit more. Obviously, people have their own journeys, which are not ours. Everyone's journey is different, obviously. And in that regard, you talked about meeting your colleagues where they are. And I wanted to break that down for us, Helen, as Scrum Masters that are maybe just now starting our journey. What does that mean in practice? Like, how can I make sure as a Scrum Master that I am, respecting that mantra of meeting people where they are?
Yeah, it's difficult, I think, because you need to be able to observe. So I'd say the first thing to do if you're starting out is just be patient. Look and observe the team. Don't assume that just because they're a team, they're in the same place. Just have a conversation. It's so easy for us to avoid conversations where maybe we're not sure, especially when you're new to that role. You don't want to expose yourself, I guess, too much, but actually that's fine. If you're new to it, you're almost kind of in a better place because you don't bring the baggage from any other area or any other experience, but you're starting afresh. So yeah, meet people where they are, but observe them first. Be patient in understanding that you will have lovers, you'll have haters, you'll have people who are completely in between, and that's actually totally fine. And where you have got people who perhaps have had bad experiences within this sort of mindset, within the framework, whatever you're using, just be patient with them and understand the reasons behind that, because we all have different experiences within this way of delivering, and I think it's important to understand the way that where everybody else is coming from and ourselves. I'd probably say that was through 3 key things that I think I've mentioned. So observe, and listen, and make sure that you come from an understanding place that not everybody is starting from the same or singing from the same hymn sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. Great reminders for us, especially for those of us who are excited and energized and want everybody to come along. But yeah, being patient, listening, observing, it's very important. Thank you for that, Helen.
No problem. No, it's great.
Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests helped their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.